I'd like to thank X11 Coffee for being today's sponsor.
Welcome to Harvest to Pour, the business of beverages, with your host, Matthew Shipp. This is the podcast for all of those who are involved in the agriculture all the way to the distribution of beverages. And now your host, Matthew Shipp.
Hello and welcome to Harvest to Pour. I'm your host, Matthew Shipp, and today I am here with Tim Wiggins, the co-founder of Bangers Only, Yellow Belly, a restaurant and bar, and Lazy Tiger, a bar and restaurant. I'll let you figure that out. And they're also from St. Louis. How you doing today, Tim?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Great. Thanks for being here. Thanks for taking time to talk to us and learn more about your businesses.
Absolutely.
So let us know a little bit about what inspired you to start these bars and the mixology consultancy. Actually, I didn't mention that Bangers Only is a mixology consultancy. But yeah, let's know how you've taken your bar restaurant model, grown that, and how Bangers Only came into existence as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I always had a strong interest in advertising, communications, the idea of what makes people excited to purchase something, to enjoy something. And so, I thought that meant I was going to be, ad executive and put on a suit and work in Chicago. And that's where I was on that track. And then I said, I went to New Zealand for 3 months, totally disconnected, kind of just had a full 3 months to really think about, what I wanted to do, what made me happy, what really I felt like was the thing I wanted to do for the rest of my life, and I came back to St. Louis and had really no money and spent my last $200 I had bungee jumping in New Zealand. And so by the time I got back to St. Louis, I barely had gas money to put in my car, but I had just enough to get downtown. And I thought I wanted to work in coffee at that time. So I was really into coffee and flavor and taste. And I was just really hyped up on kind of this third wave coffee movement that was happening. And so I went downtown to this place that served coffee and breakfast and asked if they would hire me. And they said, "Hey, there's a place down the street hiring, kicked me out the door, sent me to this next place." They basically hired me on the spot because they were opening and needed hands and were incredibly busy. And so the person who hired me at that place is now my business partner in the restaurants. But I kind of had like a microwave experience my first year working in restaurants and did everything from food running to scooping ice cream to serving and then bartending, and kept being asked to do more, which was kind of strange because I didn't actually want more responsibility or want to learn new things. I just was like, I want to do this. It was not the thing I decided was going to be my future. It was what I was going to do to make money while I figured it out, which I think a lot of people can sympathize with that feeling. And so as I started doing it more and started to actually enjoy it, and, bartending was still at that time something I found fun and social, and I liked it, but it just it wasn't anything I was identifying as, something I wanted to do long term. And then I got asked to move over and manage and run this new vegetarian whiskey bar that was opening. And so I was 21, I think I was 21, 22, and moved over and was in charge of a staff of people who were, I was the youngest person on staff and I was the manager. I knew basically nothing of what I was doing, but I just read every book that I possibly could, immerse myself in it. I had ordering power of 150 different whiskeys and all these different products. So really, I just completely immersed myself in everything that I could learn, everything that I could do, and kind of fell in love with, the mixing of different alcohols, the creation of cocktails, the bar service, the magic that is sitting at a bar, getting a drink, ordering something, and really just leaving and thinking, wow, that was just such a magical experience. And so, yeah, I kind of had this pipe dream to, maybe I would do this myself. But it just didn't feel like it was a realistic dream until, the guy who had hired me at the other restaurant said, "Hey, if I could open a restaurant, would you do it with me?" And I was like, "Well, sure, like, let's
Oh,
do
okay.
it. And
Okay.
so, yeah, we kind of just, from the restaurant side, we just kind of naively jumped into this thing and said, "Hey, let's work a ton. Let's make this work. We know what doesn't work. Let's not do that. And let's do the things that we think would make this situation better." And so in a lot of ways, the career just kind of, like I say, microwaved into this situation where I didn't work in the industry for 10 years before I opened something. I worked in the industry for, you know, 3 years before I opened my first place. And, you know, was just willing to learn as I went on because we didn't exactly know what we were doing. But I mean, we're almost 10 years into having restaurants and I'm still figuring out exactly what we're doing. So I think that, I think there's a lot more to be learned as we continue to go on. But then as I saw, now years into it, the systems that we developed, the ways in which the cocktails are made and the speed and the training, I kind of saw this as, hey, these are things that other restaurants don't have a lot of times, places that don't have the person or the infrastructure. It's a lot of time and energy, and there's a lot of information that you need to know in order to, communicate these things effectively and have a bar program that is set up to be efficient and smart and cost effective. And those people are not easy to hire. And so I saw a gap where, hey, I know these places that are busy and people like them, but it's hard for them to elevate what they have up to the next level. And it was something where I created a consultancy because I saw that space where I could come in and help them develop a menu, do staff trainings, tweak some of the products they're using, some of their methods, and really set it up to where they can be a lot more profitable and can have a product that's more consistent and is just better.
So this will be a great time to ask about what were some of those struggles you kind of ran into. Yeah, you knew it didn't work coming into a
Mhm.
business. As you started to grow your own business or create your own business, what were some of the struggles you ran into that weren't unexpected, weren't written down for you? And how does
Mm.
those tie into your consultancy now?
Yeah, I mean, really consistency it's the thing that I focus most on right now because it's the most difficult thing. You've got 40 different components in your cocktail menu. You have six different bartenders. You have, 5 nights you're open. It's so difficult for every single product that gets made and served to be incredibly consistent. But ultimately, it's the most important thing that when I came Tuesday night, when I came Saturday night, what I got looked, smells, tastes exactly the same. I think that
Okay.
things being great and perfect is pretty subjective, but things being consistent, is pretty easy to quantify. And so I found, there were a lot of challenges of just how do you trust people, but also know that your name and your reputation and you're on the line for how people are accepting and perceiving this restaurant. And that was really difficult to find people you trust and then allow them to work in that space. And so I think I definitely struggled with wanting to have my hands on every little thing, and but that was prohibitive to growth. And so figuring out, okay, well, there are people I need to invest in and have equity with and trust, and then give them projects so that I can do the things I should be doing, which is not
Mm.
juicing and making syrups and labeling bottles for 5 hours a day.
Yeah. And what were as you were creating that consistency and learning about consistency, what were some of the unexpected hiccups you ran into while getting their first restaurant off the ground?
Mm. Oh, wow. I mean, I feel like daily there was some sort of issue or problem you ran into. It's even
Okay.
just, oh man, even just the things you don't know, the pars, running out of things, having enough product and not having too much. We were working in a small space where you couldn't just order 2 weeks worth of product and then, be flush. You were ordering 2 or 3 times a week, getting product in, trying to manage it, trying to make sure you had enough. So I think a lot of that was, how do I know how much to order, how much to not? How do I forecast how busy we're going to be? and leaving a room for error so that we're not running out of things, but so that we're not overbuying. And so I think that that was a large part of what, creating those systems. It wasn't something where there were just templates and systems and spreadsheets given to me that said, fill these out and everything will be fine. But I think that's what I'm now, wanting to create and creating and giving to people is, hey, here's all these things that I've found of how to do your inventory, of how to do your ordering, of how to forecast your sales, of how to batch these components together so that you can't run out of these items. And I think that those are the things that I, I didn't know because no one told me that.
So how much do you think of you may have all these templates for how to do these now, knowing what you know now.
Mhm.
How much is it for somebody running a restaurant or a bar, just the awareness of that, you're not sure we're keep on running out of stuff, but I don't know why. Just being
Yeah,
aware of the problem is the first step.
absolutely. I mean, I'm often surprised how disorganized or how just kind of off the cuff the ordering and the whole situation is done behind the bar. And I
Mm,
think you're right. The awareness of how could this be better, and then followed with, like, well, let's make it better. I think that's
mm,
been my attitude from the get go is analyzing every single thing we're doing. And if it can be 1% better, then let's make the effort and make it that little bit better so that after 6 months, we're now, you know, 10% better. And so I think that, really being critical of everything we were doing, which is takes humility. It's like you're opening a space, you're inviting people into it, you're the boss, you're in charge of it, but you have to be, there's an element of humility saying, hey, y'all, like, yes, this is our thing and we opened it, but it's this living, breathing business that if people want to take it in this direction and if this is what guests are looking for, that's what we're going to do. And we have our angle, we have what we're trying to do, but there's just a whole lot of learning and, asking questions, to coworkers, to employees, just saying, hey, what do you think of this? Really being collaborative. And I think that's something
mhm.
that I struggled with in the first couple of years was, really just thinking, I know best. I know how this should be. And therefore I'm going to make it this way. Because if I trust you and it doesn't go well, then I'm an idiot. I think that it was difficult to not feel like that. And so I think that now in retrospect, I see the people that were there and the people I have now and how much trust I have in them. And I hire people who are better at jobs than I am so that when I see how it's happening, I'm like, well, I would have handled it like this, but I trust that you are as good at this or better at it than me. And so I'm not feeling the need to have my claws in everything.
That's great. I like that you've said trust several times and building that trust and just being able to let go and say that nobody's gonna have as much passion about your business than you. You're not
Right.
even your number 2. It's and being able to identify that and then to let go, let other people have different ways of doing things. It may not be exactly my way. I got a list, I've got checklists. I know restaurants have checklists, their checklists have checklists. But
Mhm.
at the same time, there's modifications. People, the way they do it may be different. They may still get it done. That reminds me of a workshop I ran with a small team that's really what it was we brought the leader back into the group, and I have it so everybody kinda individually bubbled up all their challenges,
Mm,
and it was really funny because once they selected the top challenges, most of the owners' challenges were left on the cutting room floor.
mm,
And that showed them that, "Hey, these are the pieces we need to really work on now," and the owner saw that, "Oh, okay, well, if they fix this is gonna fix all the stuff on the cutting room floor.
mhm.
I just need to let it happen. I need to allow them to try it out." So that was a kind of a
Right.
cool very along those same lines. So you're
Yeah,
hitting on the
absolutely.
pieces.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it also helped that, Travis and I opened this restaurant and we were there every day in service, working service. We were intimately aware of what was going well and what wasn't. And I
Mhm,
think that showed, you don't really see a lot of that these days of, hey, I'm your server, I'm your bartender, I'm sweeping the floor, I'm, you know,
mhm.
wiping down tables. I also own this place and I have to know where the snags are because if I'm not concerned about the logistics of working here and how great it is to start a shift and end a shift, I can't make everyone's position optimal if I don't intimately know those things.
Yeah, yeah, understanding that, but letting it happen. outside of your hands is definitely
Mhm.
a how did you kind of overcome that mindset? Because I see a lot of people, still struggling with that. They're just like, what if they just do their
Yeah.
jobs? I'm like, it's more than that.
Yeah.
You look
Yeah.
in the mirror a little bit. So how do you
Yeah.
look in that finally?
Yeah. I just think that, yeah, really building the relationships with people and really understanding, it's like you have to. I have people now that I truly do trust, and I know that I know their mind. I know that this is our unified vision of where we want things to go. And I think that really it came down to like being a better communicator and letting people know this is how we're going to deal with situations. This is where we want everything to end, and how we get there. Each person may have a little bit of a unique way of how they deal with the situation, but ultimately this is the result we want, and I think that it's easy to not communicate to people and say, well, I know what to do. I know what's best and I'll deal with it. And it takes a lot of time and energy to communicate those things and share that information with people and deal with the growing pains of saying, hey, I'm going to show you all how to do this because everyone should be able to do it. And then two people do it wrong and it costs money, it costs time, it costs product. It's frustrating, but without showing the staff that, hey, this is our restaurant and I need you because eventually I need to not be here and it needs to be okay, and like that long-term vision, it's hard to have up front because you think, well, of course I'm going to be here every day. I have to be here, and realizing, no, you don't have to be there. You're making it to where you have to be there. Like you're keeping information from people and you're stunting your managers from being able to fully do their job because you're always there. And so as soon as I saw myself pull back a little bit and say, hey, I could be there tonight, but I'm going to choose to not. It's a Tuesday. I'm going to let, the general manager have this shift. They the general manager is also more empowered, more comfortable, started, this weekly training situation where they're doing this new thing that was not even on my radar, and I think that it, as soon as I saw the benefits to not being there constantly, it was like a light bulb of like, well, of course, I hired smart people. They know how to do their job. They don't need me micromanaging or even just being present a lot of times. It's just like, hey, let people be not around the owner or the boss and just allow them to work more effectively.
Okay. I really like you saying you're making it that you have to be there. That is I
Mhm.
think, key tone for anybody in this business to kind of ask themselves
Yeah.
every once in a while, am I making it that I have to be here or can I step away and
Yeah.
let my
Yeah.
team, build their confidence? That's great.
Absolutely.
So we're gonna move into my kind of harvest the poor section, but since we're gonna give it a twist because we've been on this team development, and I also have another question. So typically, my harvest the poor, I'm asking a producer like, where are you harvesting your raw ingredients? How do you make that product
Mm.
uniquely yours?
Yeah.
And the poor is typically the marketing. With you, I want to go into like what are the milestones that happen between starting a business and achieving success? And
Mm.
harvesting probably going into, like, harvesting the right team, making the
Mhm.
who how do you decide who's the right team? Making your product, making your environment, your ecosystem, your team's environment uniquely yours so they know what
Mm.
they're supposed to be doing, and also your customers wanna come back. And, of course, the
Right.
poor, how you keep your clients coming back. We'll kinda stick with the marketing there, but I think that this is really kinda unique. I like this because it's sort of creating this
Mm.
business cocktail, for lack of a better
Yeah.
term.
Yeah.
I'll
Absolutely.
words a little bit for you. So yeah, go ahead and take us into how those milestones, with that first milestone and building it, starting the business and achieving success.
Yeah. It's funny because there are like awards and there are these like things you strive for in the restaurant industry that in a lot of ways don't actually mean anything and are not actually they don't actually represent what your culture at your restaurant is. You see the restaurants that win best restaurant, you find out the chef has been abusing everyone and it's totally horrible workplace. It's like it's kind of the milestones are funny to me because when we got started, we kept we'd say, well, it'd be nice if we did this. And then by the time you get there and you say, hey, I want to do $1 million this year. We forecasted we'd do 700. if we did 1 million this year in sales, that would be really great. And you get there and you do 1.1 and you're like, well, we could have done 1.5. But it's like as soon as you reach anything, you have two more things set ahead of you, and you never take the time to relish and say, hey, like we set a goal, we achieved it. Like this is how it should be happening. We should be acknowledging this. And so I think that early on it was just like go, go, go. My propensity to be like, it, it could be different, it could be better. Let's try this. And not taking the time to say, hey, this was a large goal we set. We hit it. Like let's acknowledge this. But we put realistic goals ahead of ourselves. And then in the first year we did, more than 1.5 times what we had projected. We had a staff that I think we were 2 years in and we still had 70% of the same staff that we hired initially. We're really in those first couple months, which to me is a massive mark of, success in the restaurant industry. It's like, yes, you win best new restaurant, you win, we were on the best new restaurant shortlist. I won mixologist of the year. We have these kind of accolades that rolled in. But again, those are not in my mind indicative of what is actually happening at the restaurant. They're nice, they bring people in, but to me, having a staff that had been there for now 2 years upon hiring is rare. You usually see about 80% turnover in those
Yeah,
first
that
two
was
years,
crazy.
especially because we were doing hiring and you were kind of at the mercy of who shows up to that interview. This is St. Louis. There's not a line of 200 people trying to work at your restaurant you're opening. And so you're just kind of saying, is this a personality that could work in this team? The experience doesn't matter as much. The general resume in a lot of ways I don't care about. Is this someone that I think can be a team member that has humility, that when they mess up, they own it, that ultimately has the goal to make the people who walk through the door happy, no matter what that takes. I think that we 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 were fortunate because we knew a bit of how to hire and how to not hire. And we were just really fortunate that the group of people we hired were really excellent people. And, we're now 9 years from when we were doing that hiring, and there's still 4 people that we had hired in that initial thing that are still working with us and are great friends and wonderful people, and dozens that have worked there that we've stayed close with because, I think that the perspective on hiring people matters a lot. And I think that my perspective has always been for 99% of people that walk through this door, we're a trampoline for you to get to the next thing you're going for.
Right.
There are going to be people who stick around for a long time, but if I'm not aware of where you want to go and helping you get there, if that's making clothes, if that's being in a band that goes on tour, if that's whatever it is, I want to know what your goals are and help you get there, because this can't be, for most people, your everything and the thing you're going to do for the next 30 years. I'm aware of that. I've worked in situations where how dare you have interests that aren't working at this restaurant when you're
Yeah.
21, and I saw that, okay, if you want to have a place where people want to work, you have to acknowledge them as a human that has other things they're interested in, and they work here 3 shifts a week to fund the other things they want to do. And so I think that, with the milestones, having staff that stuck around, that showed interest, that were committed was just so big to me because, again, you open this thing with your vision and you just can't really expect anyone else to give too many cares about it. It's not their thing. It's your thing. And then to see people be very invested and care so much was massive to me. And then, the accolades when we first opened were pretty, kind of came rolling in and really helped us grow to doing, really more than we thought possible in that space. I think that another large milestone was we were at a time where cocktails and food mostly existed separately. As you went somewhere to get cocktails and you went somewhere to have dinner. And it was not super common that you went to a place and had a really excellent craft cocktail with food that was prepared from scratch and was not just, a bowl of fries or olives. And so I think what we were going for was how do we mash up these concepts, make them happen in one space? And in a lot of ways, I didn't know if it was going to work, And so I think that we had tons of beer when we opened. Beer was a big thing. We had wine, we had beer. We had a very comprehensive beverage program. And looking at the numbers from the first 2 years and seeing that 90% of what we sold was cocktails was incredibly validating and was a really big milestone because we were seen as a cocktail bar, not
Mm.
a restaurant that has a bar. And I think that that was pretty massive for me and for the whole team of like, hey, we have cracked into this small club of people where people go and they order esoteric cocktails and we know how to make them. And we're seen as on the short list of the best place to get cocktails, which it was definitely a milestone that, had me very excited.
And that was a milestone based on accolades. You said accolade, people really recognizing you for who you are. That was that next piece of milestone, the word of
Yeah,
mouth.
I think that it's tough because it's like those accolades are. I'm trying to be delicate. I don't mean to poo-poo them really, but they're a person. They're one person that decides it and then gives you the award. Those people have maybe never even been to the restaurant. People get awards because they know people who like people, and
Okay.
I'll leave that for what it is. But the guests coming in, the reception, the regulars, the people that came 3 days a week. And that was some magic there was some mojo in that space that we
Yeah.
partly created and partly lucked into. And the sales absolutely followed what we saw nightly, which was, more regulars, more people there, 2, 3, 4 nights a week. And, doing double what we projected, what we could do in our third year was massive, and I think that was something that felt like, hey, we have an actual business, not this small thing that maybe can pay us a small salary and we own our job. It's like, do you own your job or do you own a business? And I think that was something that, year three came into like, okay, well, not only do we own this business, but we have the ability to leverage it and open and take a $800,000 loan and open another restaurant because we're crazy enough to do it. And opening the second one felt like the largest milestone of not only do we have a thing that works, but we have a thing that is crushing it. We have a thing that is hot and very busy and making money. And it's just not that common that you open a place and are 3 years in and have capital to put into a new thing.
And now a word from our sponsors. Exit 11 Coffee is there for your on-the-go lifestyle. With 8 convenient drive-through locations, they bring quality coffee to your car window. Need it sugar-free, dairy-free, or keto-friendly? At X11, you call the shots. They've got options for every diet and taste. The best part, every sip supports local farms and businesses. So swing by Exit 11 Coffee, where great taste meets small-town values without slowing you down. Hey, are you spinning your wheels trying to figure out what will really boost your business's bottom line? At Emberry Solutions, our Profit Priority Workshop is here to cut through the noise. We help you zero in on what truly matters, aligning your team, optimizing your processes, and magnifying your profits. Imagine your business running smoother than ever, with every decision and effort leading straight to increased profits. That's what focusing on the right priorities can do. Ready to boost your efficiency and profits? Visit Emberry Solutions and let's start making your business work smarter. At Emberry Solutions, we take your business from bottlenecks to breakthroughs. So how was that opening new locations while maintaining others? I mean, that first step away, you really had to
Yeah.
say, hey, this can operate on its own. I don't have to look back because I'm figuring the first year, maybe even 2, your headspace is totally into the new business you're trying to get started.
Yeah, it was not easy. And it was at the same time I had my first child 11 days after we opened the second restaurant. And so the 9 month there was like this odd parallel of we signed a lease, found out we were pregnant within the same week, opened the restaurant, had the baby within the same 2 weeks. It was like watching the birth, the pregnancy and the birth of the business and my wife at the same time. neither of which were getting enough attention. And it was just like lose-lose situation is what it felt like. But the beauty of that was we had somebody who we had hired the second month after we opened the first restaurant who was as trustworthy of anyone that I know. And they kind of took the reins as the general manager. Luckily, the wheels were spinning so quickly and well. I was able to kind of jump off, kickstart this other new thing and say, hey, if I'm here one night a week or that was my first lesson in making myself not necessary. It was like, okay, well, I need to not matter to the daily operations. And this needs to, like, there are only a couple things a week that need my attention from this. And, until I had the second project, it was not, there was no need for me to make myself unnecessary. And so then as soon as we said, okay, we're going to open a new thing, I was like, oh, well, we better make sure this team at the first place is incredibly solid. And so I think that the beauty of opening new things is the awareness that, okay, well, this thing needs to exist as its own business and function and make money without me.
Mhm.
And making that happen is much harder than it operating with me. And so then the second thing was scaled and it was bigger and it's doing twice the sales that the first thing was. And I kind of was able to say, hey, this is the thing that needs the most attention. How do we divide this up to where I'm at the place that needs the most amount of attention?
Okay. I have one question to come back that you mentioned the secrets to hiring. So you had some practice at this before you started.
Oh,
So if you had to give somebody that's, either struggling with hiring, finding that right person, and you said it was personality as a piece, but how would, what would be one piece of advice you'd give somebody to think about when they're actually, when they're hiring? Because I've heard
yeah.
about it. I work with them? Yes, but you don't know
Mm,
what you don't know, from a 15-minute interview.
absolutely. I think maybe this is similar to most industries. People who have been in the restaurant industry know how to interview. They know what to say. They know what not to say. It's so easy in 15 minutes to get
Mm,
yeah, oh, well, this person seems like a great hire. It's not always the case. I think that my methods are to ask you a question that you were definitely not expecting, and it's not even restaurant related at all. I ask every interview we have to describe themselves as a motor vehicle, make and model of a motor vehicle, and they have 5 seconds. And I'm hiring people to see how they work on their feet. I'm hiring people to see them answer questions that they were not expected. And if you can't think quickly and come up with something, that speaks more to how you're going to be table side than you being able to tell me in an interview that you're a team player, that you're no drama, that blah, 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 all the things that we'll see. But I think that making people that element of uncomfortable of saying, hey, I've got some questions for you. And also, what do you like to do outside of this? Who are you as a person? What are
mhm,
your passions? Where are you trying to go? Um, I think that hiring people that are looking for the restaurant to be their everything, their social group, their money, their everything they do is dangerous because as soon as it starts to not become that, they they try to. It's easy for them to try to poison everything and try to just like be really destructive in that situation because that's their everything. Oh, well, the manager changed and now it's different. Well, like it's the end of the world because this is my everything. And so trying to find people who have a balance of they're a happy person and they want to work at a restaurant. And if their job is not perfect, they know that the job is the problem, not, you know, outside things are the problem. And so I like getting to know someone, talking very little about their restaurant experience, depending on the role we're talking about, because service, if you've worked in a restaurant for 5 years plus, service is something that you should know to an extent, but hospitality, we are trying to teach people. We are trying to say, this is our brand of hospitality. And in a lot of ways, I don't want all your baggage from your last 10 years of where you've worked. And I don't
Mhm.
want you to say, well, I did this here. I did this here. I would rather teach you how we do it from a fresh slate. And so really saying, are you someone that I want to communicate with, that I like talking to, that is is that carries conversation on? Because we're unless we're hiring in the kitchen, we're hiring people to talk to people, to be ambassadors of our brand in our space. And yeah, so I like asking questions like, make and model. What would you say to that? What are you? Can you give me a make and model of a vehicle that you think describes you and your personality?
Uh, Chevy S10. Not a really
Mm.
big truck, but I like to help out, but I don't want on all the big jobs.
Yeah, yeah. I like it. I have sat through interviews that I said that in my mind were a great candidate, and when I asked them that question, they said baby blue Lamborghini, and I said, all right, no higher. Like
Liar.
that tells me more than anything else you just said. You just said you're high maintenance and you're luxury and you're
Yeah, yeah, that would
unattainable.
be good.
All the, I think that it to me, it's like, how do you ask a question that someone speaks honestly about who they are, that maybe
Mhm.
they're not realizing how honest they're being about themselves? Because some people understand the question well and some people don't. But when someone says, I'm a black Jeep Wrangler, I've got big
Yeah,
tires, I can navigate any terrain, I'm flexible, I'm, tough on the outside, but I'm still nice and soft on the inside. Those are the things that I'm like,
interesting.
that's the type of like ruggedness on the outside, but polish on the inside that we're kind of looking for in a lot of ways of so at least that I'm looking forward to hire.
That's cool. That's a great question. That's great advice. And I also finally just want to tack on, I really liked how you earlier said that not all of your employees are you're wanting them are they gonna stay? So you're also
Mm,
help building them by helping them through their career journey. It may be with you for a short
mm,
amount of time and they move on, but the fact that you help them, they may even help you hire just by referring, "Hey, they did
absolutely.
great on my part. You should check them out."
Absolutely.
Alright. So, where do you wanna take you've got, what, 3 businesses right now, so it's kind of where do you wanna take your businesses next?
Yeah, I think we're so in the restaurant world and in the consulting world, they're kind of two different worlds I'm operating in.
Yeah,
The restaurant world, we are working on a new lease to sign. And so we're working on a new concept. So a lot of my energy is going into dreaming up what does this place look like, smell like, taste like, everything in that world, which is kind of the fun side of the restaurant because it's still maybe 11 months out from being a reality. And then in the consulting world, it's kind of a different situation of we're working with we're kind of learning who we want to be working with, who we provide the most value to, and really who it makes the most sense on both sides to work with. And so, we've been working with a group that has hotels and restaurants, and they have very high volume places. And what we can do for them is make them a lot more money because we can make sure the cocktails are costed correctly, but also, places that, like I said, want to elevate and say, hey, we've had good cocktails, but now we have great cocktails. Now we have something that you're coming here not just for the environment, but because this tastes great. And I think that that's been a really good a spot for us to operate in. And so really trying to find those strategic businesses to partner with and say, hey, I would rather take over a challenge of saying you're busy, but product is not as great as it could be. You know, how do I, their question is like, how do we get there? Like, we don't want to change everything we do. We're not trying to reinvent ourselves. But if we could just, over the next 3 months, incrementally really level up what we're doing, we're going to continue to be busier. We have higher quality products. We have happier staff. I think that that's where the spot we're living in a lot and different than, hey, we're slow. Can you make us busier by helping us,
yeah,
make things better? I think so. So really trying to figure out who the ideal client is for the cocktail consultancy and, who has who can place the value on it? Because you're not doing volume and you're not, if you don't have guests coming in, it's difficult to afford any sort of consultant or any sort of change to happen. But it just means, it's striking a balance of the dream client in my mind when I started Bangers
Mhm.
is not who we're working with,
Okay.
but we're now working with the client that makes the most sense and actually is the best client to be working with. I think that's just like the evolution of the business. I thought, oh, we'll work with these places and we'll, change everything they do and they'll be so happy. And the reality is people don't want to change everything. They want to make small changes that make the most amount of impact. And so that's
Absolutely.
what that's
Totally
what
agree with that.
that's what we're kind of like leaning into of, okay, well, what are the few changes we can make that you see as a huge impact, but ultimately we come in and change everything on your staff, they're going to walk out. That's
Yeah.
not what anybody wants.
Yeah. It's overwhelmed. So you said are you still kind of coming narrow that down on who, or you've already narrowed it down? You
We're
want to work with?
working with a company now that has, it's kind of the ideal situation. They're continually to opening new
Yeah.
restaurants. They have lots of
Oh, I see.
existing
Okay.
concepts. So we're doing all the menus seasonally for them. We're working with their kind of like lead bartender, or in some cases, bar manager, in some places, general manager. We can kind of create that liaison between,
Mhm.
doing all the ordering, do the menu creation, do the creative, because what I've seen is people hiring creatives and having them on payroll is difficult for restaurants. And if you're not in service, working service and clocking in, paying you to come up with creative things is difficult. And so usually
Yeah.
what they do is they say, hey, I pay you to work here. Can you create some things for me? And what you get can be good and it can be okay. And I think that
Mhm.
saying, hey, I don't want you to put me on payroll. I want you to you're paying for this menu. You're getting 25 years worth of cocktail experience in a menu and in a setup, but you don't have to hire that person. And we'll do your staff trainings. We'll make sure people know how to sell these through and through. But what you get is the equivalent of hiring a $100,000 a year beverage director, but you're just paying for it per menu.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say, if you're doing that, you can almost start working backwards with what you're best at serving, what you're best at
Mhm.
solving, and
Mhm.
then as you pick up different clients, you can kind of tap out their top challenges they're coming to you with, kind
Right,
of Venn
right,
diagram those 2 together and see where what you're best at is matching out the most, and it
right.
may kind of back you into that ideal client. I mean, you already have a pretty good clue, but this is a good way to validate by working backwards for that.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway. So, yeah, I love mapping. So, is there anything okay, you already kind of mentioned what you want to improve or change, just kind of find that narrowing down on that ideal client
Mhm.
for your, consultancy, and you're opening up a second on the restaurant side, you're looking at opening up your next experiment or and venue. And are you seeing any kind of trends or in cocktails right now? Because I've talked to some other people, and there's just been a lot of,
Mm,
push around barware and
yeah,
just the product they're using and how they're getting a hold of the product.
yeah. I think that, the trends I see are, that we've seen over the last number of years is cocktails becoming more accessible and
Mm,
less stuffy. I think the days of vested bartenders with 35 ingredients per cocktail are, they're just
mhm,
fewer and fewer are those experiences. And I think that people that would not have been ordering cocktails even 5 years ago are coming in and they're ordering cocktails. They're confident ordering cocktails. They're confident ordering things that all five ingredients in the cocktail, they don't even know what they are. And I think that is a very exciting trend. I think it's something that speaks to the cocktail, game in general being elevated to saying, okay, well, I'm going to order this, $15 cocktail. Cocktails are expensive these days. They're too expensive for me to order most of the time. And so you're saying I'm going to risk my $15 on this thing that I don't even know what I'm getting
mhm,
myself into. And that is an exciting place to be. That's not where people were, especially in St. Louis 5, 6, seven
mhm,
years ago. And so I think the reason they're comfortable doing that is because restaurants and bars have realized I need to sell cocktails to everyone. I need cocktails to be more versatile and I can't just have spicy spirit-driven cocktails. I can't just have frozen cocktails. Like, how do I, how do I see my cocktail list kind of like a wine list, kind of like a beer list, and that like I have a bit for everyone. And so I like the trend of cocktails becoming more playful and more fun. I think that in a lot of ways, cocktails were this super heady, very mysterious thing that I put a lot of ingredients on here that you don't understand to make, to make it seem smoke and mirrors. But it's like, list the ingredients that the cocktail tastes like and then serve it to me. Don't tell me there's avocado leaf in the cocktail if it just tastes like a daiquiri. And so I think that the trend I see and I like to see is the transparency on like, this is what's in the cocktail. This is what it tastes like. This is what I'm giving you. Where I think that there was a lot of smoke and blur for a number of years of what you're actually getting yourself into.
I guess, around the mystery of it.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. I mean, it makes you seem more special, makes
Mhm.
bartenders feel, oh, well, you're ordering this because it sounds interesting.
Yeah.
But like, does it taste good? I think
Does
is
it
what it
taste
always comes
ideal?
down to me. I've ordered lots of $20 cocktails that sounded interesting and I don't want to drink them again. And
Okay.
ultimately,
Okay.
in my opinion, it should first and foremost, it should taste very good.
Cool. So does that play into how does that play into your consultancy training some of these new bartenders? It seems like it's more open, but at the same time simplified. Does that help or hurt
Yeah,
or
I think it helps. I think that people, especially the bartenders we're working with, want to be told how to do it, how to make it consistently,
Mhm,
and they want to have pride behind the product. I think that everyone who really is passionate, and the bar industry is full of these creatives who are passionate and are are wanting to create things that people get excited about. And the easiest way to kill that spirit is for them to not actually believe that what they're serving you is good, and I think that it's really fun to see people's faces light up and say, well, that's great. I can't wait to sell this to people. Like, that's how it should be. You should be so excited to serve this to someone and confident that they're going to love it instead of thinking, well, this one's okay. This one's okay. I like this one. But I think that's where a lot of people are is they say, well, what's good on the menu? Well, this is my favorite. I don't really like these, this. And really working with people to understand, again,
mhm,
my background of advertising of like, you in a lot of ways don't matter in this situation. These people, you're selling these people what's on the menu. This person might love whiskey neat and you hate whiskey neat. And when they ask you what's the best thing on the menu, you're going to have pretty two different ideas of what the best thing on the menu
yeah,
is. And so, really going through, hey, these cocktails are personalities, they're characters. This is this cocktail's personality, the friends it plays well with, the people who it's going to get along with, and these are the people that kind of avoid that person.
mhm,
And really trying to teach people to see the cocktails as these multifaceted energies and things that go well with some people and not with all. And not every cocktail needs to be for everyone. And so the training part of it, I really love because I find that's what most staffs lack. And they get rolled out, they get told this is the menu, they get handed the menu, and then they're told
mhm,
to sell the menu. But the verbiage and the language behind how to sell these cocktails and who to sell them to is really the difference between people loving what they get and liking or not liking what they get. I've misordered a cocktail at a place and I could walk away and say, well, that place wasn't that good. Well, I probably just got the wrong cocktail for me. And so I think that, yeah, I love the training part of it.
that's cool. So this actually is a great time to ask this next question. So when you're within your cocktail world, what is your favorite
Mm.
drink? And then when you're out on the town and you're not in
Yeah.
cocktail world, what is your favorite drink?
Yeah. I'm so simple and boring. I drink a Negroni 90% of the time. If I'm feeling wild, I'll drink a mezcal Negroni. I I'm I'm simple in that way. I like 3 ingredient cocktails. I like daiquiris. I like old fashions. I like Negronis. I always order a classic cocktail somewhere before I order a house cocktail. I don't usually love cocktails with 6 or 7 or 8 ingredients. I appreciate them. I like them as a thing, but I don't usually drink them. I yeah, I love simple cocktails. I think it's much more difficult to balance 3 ingredients than 9 ingredients. And so, yeah, usually a Negroni on the rocks. The beautiful thing about a Negroni is you can mess up the proportions. I don't care. You can give me way too much gin, way too much vermouth, way too much Campari. I'm going to enjoy it. There are 3 things that by themselves I love, and together I love even more. But if you put too much sugar in my daiquiri, I've got strong feelings about it. You know what I mean? It's like, I think
Uh-huh.
that's in my mind. I'm like, you go to a dive bar, well,
Mhm.
certain bars, and you order a Negroni, it's going to be fine. And so that's my go-to. I really I mean, I was just at a bachelor party, and so I'm trying to remember. It was a lot of like light beer. I really like a light crisp
Okay.
pilsner. I love like a bitter Czech style pilsner. Is probably about as delicious and refreshing as a beverage gets to me in a lot of ways. And I love acidic, bright white wine a
Okay.
whole lot.
Acidic bright white wine. Nice. So you said you were into coffee for a while there. So you have a
Yeah.
coffee you gotta go after?
I still am pretty into coffee. I love Sump Coffee in
Ah,
South St.
yes.
Louis. Scott makes unbelievable coffee. The spot Quarrelsome is just around the corner from where I live, and I really like them as well. I love that people are doing some cool like inoculation and fermentation of
Mhm.
the green beans before they roast. I love that there's experimentation
Yeah.
happening, and they're inoculating the green beans with koji, and then the flavor they're getting is so exciting. So
Oh, yeah.
because I'm currently not drinking alcohol, I'm on like this 75
Mhm.
soft is what I'm calling it. And so I'm really savoring my coffee flavor right now is what I'm getting.
That's awesome. Okay, that's good. Glad I asked that question. So, I like that. Yeah, there's lots of great coffee places around here in St. Louis to check out.
Yeah,
So,
what's your favorite? What do you do?
I prefer a pour over. I like
Eh,
I like some of the naturals, typically from, Upshot Coffee up here in Cottleville.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, they do
So
great
they
stuff.
make some really good fruit forward coffees.
Yeah.
Do you have any, like, promotions or events coming up for either your restaurants or your consultancy or anything along those lines?
Man, it's so funny. I try to do my best not to have events that are happening. It sounds so funny to say that, but I'm really what I'm excited about is the menu development that we've done for the LHM group. We did a new summer menu for Rooftop 360, for the Downtown 360, for Westport Social, and we're doing their seasonal menus. And I'm really excited about. They just got released about 2 weeks ago, and so I'm really really excited about those teams and how they're executing them. I think that we've done a lot of cool work. And then we're doing the menus for some Christmas pop-ups and a bunch of holiday pop-ups that'll be happening obviously in December, but that's
Mhm.
kind of what we're working on now. It's kind of wild that a lot of that work happens 6 months
Thanks.
out, but we're developing all these fun holiday cocktails. We're doing the cocktails for the train shed that will be at Union Station. And so, yeah, I think that's,
Okay.
those menus I'm getting pretty excited about.
So where can we find your 2 restaurant bars? And if somebody needs some help with their bar business, where can they find you?
Yeah, so my restaurants are in the Central West End. So Yellow Belly and Lazy Tiger, they're in a connected building. Yellow Belly has a Lindell address, and Lazy Tiger has a Euclid address, but they're right there in the heart of the Central West End.
Mhm.
I'm there a good amount. And then the bangers only, there's my website for bangers is the best way to contact me. But I mean, we're creating these fun videos on Instagram. So if anyone wants to engage with and kind of see what we've got going on, we created this video series. I think we're like 23 or 24 videos in on Instagram. And so we're creating these 1 minute short cocktail videos that kind of demonstrate some of the cocktails we've done for
Mhm.
clients, and then also just like creatively kind of a peek into the process of making cocktails. And so again, trying to connect with not just corporations and companies, but with cocktail enthusiasts and people who are just interested in it and want to know, hey, how can I make better cocktails? Why do you do this? What's the thought process behind the making of cocktails? Which I think to me comes naturally, but a lot of people have a lot of questions about.
All right, yeah, I'll make sure to have all those links in the show notes. So if anybody wants to check out his videos, his 2 restaurants,
Cool.
bars, or the consultancy, you'll find them in the show notes. This has been a Great conversation. This has really been a really educational conversation. I really like your kind of your take through to real important to celebrate your wins and not just keep on
Mm.
pushing through and setting those realistic goals for your company that can be met, celebrated, and just that and some of your great tips on just keeping that staff around, what you're doing to
Mm.
nurture your environment to keep your staff and some of your mindsets on that. And then, of course, being able to look at yourself in the mirror and step away from the business, let your
Yeah.
staff do their work, do what they do best. And so you can continue to grow and scale like you are successfully.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, I really like where you're taking this, all of your learning, putting this into this consultancy and now showing how other businesses can, duplicate in their own way
Yeah.
what you've had success with. Tim, this has
Yeah.
been a really great interview. I really appreciate your time, and I hope people listen to this and learn and pick up something from it and reach out and contact you.
Well,
Thanks
thank
again.
you. I still appreciate you. Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Talk to you soon.
Thank you for listening to Harvest to Pour, the business of beverages with Matthew Shep. Check the show notes for our guest contact information and connect with Matthew Shep on LinkedIn today.